Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Football on the No Show. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Autos? Welcome back for another edition. That's right. You know what time it is. It's time to get your dosage for the week for NFL football talk, and we are the greatest of all time, most interactive NFL talk show you're going to find, and we want you guys to prove it. Hit the comment section. Make sure you drop below the comment, whether it be a question, you want to talk about something that we're not talking about, whatever it may be. We're here for you guys, and that's what drives this show is you guys out there. So all the late and great know-it-alls out there, really appreciate the support.
It's the Halloween show, Joe, and this is the first time I think we haven't dressed up or anything or even
we
did
got
anything.
Bonesy, though.
Bonesy is here.
We got Bonesy.
So at least he's keeping it real for us. So
That's right.
Yeah, so
he's almost camouflaged in the background. That's how good he is.
Yes, there he is.
He's gonna sneak jump scare you.
Yeah, I know. I've just been super busy though, and I didn't feel like dressing up tonight though. So I'm tired. I'm a tired old man now. That's it, Joe. That's
Maybe
where
tomorrow.
we are now.
Maybe
That's where
tomorrow.
We are. Tomorrow I got a
with
busy
the kids
night.
and everything.
Yes, I have a busy night tomorrow with the kids, and then also handing out candy and stuff. So
That's right.
Hope you guys have a great Halloween out there.
Yes.
So here we go. We thought it'd be fun to. We're gonna keep it real though. We're gonna also do our trick or treat. Our trick or treat is still here, so
That's
that's
right.
gonna be
Keeping it real
one of the
here.
things here. And I'll also have my missing player on the milk carton too, so that's gonna be there. But Joe, we figured we'd start off the show here and talk about some still potential trades that can go out there because there's a lot of guys out there right now still that are names that have been listed out there as potential trades and teams that haven't pulled the trigger yet. And we talked about it last night a little bit on the Blindside Blitz about, the Lions, what are they holding out for? What are they waiting for? Yes, they're doing great in defense right now without Aiden Hutchinson right now, but you can't go without again. If you grab somebody now and the name has been out there is Aziz Ojulari, and he's got another year on his deal, too. So, I mean, that's a perfect trade right there. So then potentially next year, then you might have both Aiden Hutchinson and Aziz there, too, to rotate in and out of that defense. That's a great player to potentially have. But
potentially, yes. But the thing is this is the end of his year. This is contract year right now. There's so if you're getting him, it's for the rest, at least for this season. But then, hey, if things work out, you can extend him to a long-term deal and hold on to him. If it is the Detroit Lions, because there are other teams out there like the Atlanta Falcons. I know they're looking for extra help, possibly in that pass rush market, because even though they have Matt Judon, they would like to put another face on the other side of that D-line. So a couple of teams definitely in need of a guy by the name of Aziz Ojulari. Let's wait and see if either one of those teams pounce on that opportunity and make a deal, get it done. It just makes all the sense in the world, too. But it doesn't stop there, Jen. Because now there's more names that are starting to creep up into the NFL circles of lip service, if you will. And people are starting to talk. People are talking now. And one of those names just happens to be none other than newly acquired cornerback Tre'Davious White, formerly of the Buffalo Bills, heads over to the Rams, decides to sign with the Rams for a one-year deal. But, man, he's just been outplayed.
Yeah.
And now he's in a backup, cornerback position now with the Rams. Darius Williams has taken over his spot. And also, when you have other youngsters coming up like Kobe Durant and Josh Wallace, and then, of course, you have the veteran who has been out for quite some time in the beginning of the season. Ahkello Witherspoon makes his return into that lineup as well. Getting crowded there. Maybe it's time to move on from Tre'Davious White. Maybe he can find a home elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, that he could probably help somebody again, but he has not played well at all, and that's the thing, slipping down to what he used to be here. You know, he used to be one of those lockdown corners for the Buffalo Bills, but you saw it even when he was his last season with the Bills, not able to stay healthy. But then even when he was back on the field, it seemed like coming back from injury, he wasn't the same player anymore. And the Rams, they're looking to still move forward here, and they don't need that kind of dead weight kind of holding him back. I think so. I think they're looking to try and get some assets here for him and. Who knows? I mean, it's a good depth piece for somebody back there who might be lacking in the secondary.
Or a team that just needs a starter, needs a upgrade, because Tre'Davious White in some capacities could be that upgrade for a team that may need a little extra boost. But, hey, it didn't work out with the LA Rams, but it could work out somewhere else. So, and we do know that his lifespan is limited. Like, he's an older corner, so you're getting him for this year, possibly next year, and I'm assuming he would retire if he even wanted to play next season.
All right, who else have been hearing out there?
Oh, we always got the local favorite in Carolina, the short miniature midget quarterback that is Bryce Young. His name has been floated around quite a few times, but Carolina says otherwise. But we all know that teams will kind of push back a little bit when a player's name gets brought up. Before the trade deadline looms. But here's the thing with Carolina and Bryce Young. We've talked about it numerous times on this show and even in our, in our Blitz show there. So that Bryce Young, he has no ties to this regime at all. Dave Canales, the head coach, the offensive staff, there's no ties there. They could easily move on from him and be okay with it, because they didn't draft him. So, it does make some sort of sense to move on from him if they really do, in fact, don't believe he's the guy for the future or don't believe they could work with him, not their prototypical quarterback that they would like. It makes sense. But on the other hand, they just got there. You have a young quarterback in his second year who, I get it. I mean, I'm guilty of it too, where I just said, well, no, he's not the right guy early on. I said it in his rookie year. I didn't think he was the right guy. And he's proven that thus far. Like, he's proven that maybe he's not the right fit for this team. Maybe it's not going to work out. But he's so young, and it is only his second year. Why not just have a quarterback competition next season? Draft a quarterback, keep Bryce Young, and then you could have two young guys duking it out and may the best quarterback win next season. Or you go the route of the trade and at least get a draft pick for him. Now, you're not going to get anything crazy. This guy was a top 3 pick in the first round. It's nothing to take lightly. But at the same time, his trade value has dramatically dropped. So even if you were to agree on a trade, it's going to be for a mid-round, maybe even just a late-round pick. So
yeah, and again, it's basically when you're looking at this guy, you're like, all right, the value is really low, but I think I am a quarterback guru. I could be able to fix this guy. You know what I mean? I can.
There's always those coaches.
Get him in that. Get him in my arms here and in my locker room. I'll work on him and we can make it work. And we've seen some of these quarterbacks that have come into the league. I mean, Sam Darnold now has got to be that perfect example now. You know what I mean? Drafted high. Didn't really pan out with his first visit here with the Jets, and then he goes to, Carolina, does okay, 49ers, bouncing around a little bit, learning from some of the better offensive coordinators here, and now there he is here with the Minnesota Vikings, and he looks a little more polished and comfortable and playing better, making smarter decisions. And sometimes some guys just need that, you know what I mean? Yeah. Some more of that experience, and just that learning behind some other guys and getting the right guy. That when he went to the Jets, it was, a mess. You know what I mean? They grabbed Adam Gase to try and help this guy, after the fact. It wasn't like all of a sudden Adam Gase was there and then he picked him. They're like, here, we got Sam Darnold here. Adam Gase, what do you think? You think you can do this? Okay, here we go. And then that failed, miserably. So, you never know. With the Carolina Panthers changing head coaches and things like that, that's never good for a quarterback early on. And if Canales now, he's said, or, he's already checked out on him so that he's moved on to Andy Dalton. you know where he is. So you might as well get him out the door, get something for him at this point, and somebody who might want him, you know, it's their issue, and then maybe they can make it work.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, checking out on him now is only because they were trying to get back into the season. Like, that's why they put Andy Dalton, because they thought they had a chance where they could turn it around, maybe salvage some of the season and get back into the hunt. But so far, that's not working out too well either.
Right.
A couple of teams, though, that it's kind of humorous, but do you think this is a kind of New York Jet type of move, that if they were going to trade, bring in a young quarterback like Bryce Young and try to work with him with the weapons that they already have? You know, it's something that would make a lot of sense, because the Jets organization would do something similar to this and try yet again
Right.
in the quarterback market, being so young.
Oh, that's the only thing I see, again, if that makes sense, because, again, I don't think they have the offensive coordinator there to make it work. I really don't.
I think they do. I
don't
think
know.
they have the right guy right now.
I don't know.
Todd Downing.
You
after
can't get the plays in
making,
quick enough. You know what I mean? They're forever getting the play in late, so he's obviously indecisive and getting the play out there enough to these guys to where they're getting, you know, delay of game every other, you know, play. It's ridiculous.
guy literally just got handed that job to do this, and he's had 1 year of experience as an offensive coordinator. So let him get into the rhythm of things. Let him get into his new position and work it out. Like, no one's going to come in and just automatically be like a veteran and just kind of just pipe it, you know, just constantly pick plays and get him out there into the thing. I mean, sometimes it takes a little bit to get used to. I know he has experience. I know he's been in this league for quite some time, but again, I think it's too early to kind of jump on him and say he's not good. Now, his play calling is way better. You got to admit that, because I saw a lot of plays that were moving the ball for the Jets instead of stalling too soon. But again, we've talked about the Jets at nausea at this point, about what they need to do going forward. This is just a potential thing that might happen, because having Rodgers there now, what's to say he leaves next season? And do they, I mean, and that's the other thing too, is realistically, the Jets are going to be picking in the top part of the draft. That's what we're thinking now.
Right.
I don't see them all magically turning it around at this point, with all the struggles that they've had. So this could be like one of those type of moves that you do low key. It's low risk, high reward type of a move, and then even draft a quarterback beyond that, and see how that plays out. You know, it's just something that could be thrown out there. Another team that I thought about is the Tennessee Titans, with Will Levis not being that organization is just not 100% sure that he is the guy. We've seen that he's shown flashes that he can be, but then has also let the team down by creating bad turnovers at the worst moments of the game. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just something thrown out there.
Yeah, I don't know. With the Bryce Young thing, I think, again, that move isn't happening until the end of the season, though. I don't know if anybody's really trading for him right now at this point. I think that would be like an end of the season type of deal if they're ready to move on, especially if you come draft time, if they find somebody that they potentially might want, and then there is maybe a change of hands by then you're looking at people that already coaches that have been fired. And guys starting with new teams. Like, we look at Ben Johnson, if he lands a different job somewhere else, and it's not the Chicago Bears, like, you know, they had said that he had interest in that before. Again, if Ben Johnson, and see what he's done with the Jared Goff here too in the last couple of seasons here, with his numbers getting better than when he was with Sean McVay and the Rams. Yeah. That's something potentially, if he thinks that, hey, give me Bryce Young, and then maybe I can, you know, turn him into something.
But at that point, I feel like Ben Johnson is going to go to a team that's going to be picking high, and he's going to pick his guy.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. He's not going to just take Bryce Young just to take him and say, oh, I'm going to work with Bryce Young, and we don't need to worry about quarterback. So that's kind of like
it could be a scenario
situation.
just like what happened with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. It could be because, again, the value is real low for Bryce Young. So if somebody grabs like a veteran in there to start, and then all of a sudden, and they still don't have a quarterback, so they can say, hey, we can get this veteran in free agency. he's potentially our starter most likely, but we'll bring this other guy in and see what we get out of him for nothing. So it's low risk, high reward potentially.
Yeah, the other part of that too is, with Bryce Young, here's the thing is I feel like if it gets to the offseason, no one's going to trade for him because teams do this all the time. If they know that you're out on him, it's the offseason, most likely you're going to cut him. And then a team doesn't have to give up a draft pick, and then they can just sign him off the free agent wire anyway, not pay a lot of money as it is, and do it that way. So it's like I feel like if a trade doesn't happen before this deadline,
Right.
then he might end up just becoming a free agent anyway.
Yeah.
And actually it'll be the best thing for him because now he has
gets to
a
choose,
little bit of
yeah.
leverage on where he's going to go. Like
Right.
obviously he's going to have to take what he can get,
Yep.
but depending on the amount of interest in him,
Yep.
maybe he gets to go to a better situation for him.
All right.
We got Mike Tackett in the house. One of the OG know-it-alls that
Hashtag
is
know-it-alls.
the all great Mikey. For this Halloween, the scariest thing for me is the Steelers quarterback room. You have a prima donna past his prime that his teammates don't respect, and then you also have a quarterback who, while was winning, was doing just enough to get by, showing he isn't their next franchise quarterback. Although a close second place is the Colts quarterback room. It is a scary place to live.
Oh my God! Who the hell
It's a
cares?
here's my thing is like for the Steelers quarterback room. I think they've already decided this. We talked about this before the season even started, that their guy was always Russell Wilson. And so far, in 2 games in Pittsburgh, the guy has shown you that he can carry the team. He can lead the offense. He can make the throws that count. Like George Pickens is super happy now that he's getting the ball.
Yep.
And even we're seeing an emergence of Van Jefferson.
Yeah, right.
A 30-plus-year-old receiver that everybody thought was going to be like, he's just a name that they put in the roster, and that's pretty much it. Wasn't really going to do much. And then also you got that Austin kid that had like a little bit of a breakout of the season last week.
Yep.
And, as far as the Steelers quarterback room in its entirety, I think it's a good quarterback room. Now you have
Right.
2 diverse quarterbacks. Obviously, they already knew who they wanted to be the starter. It's just the rest of the media, the rest of the fans had to catch up to where we were at. But now with that, we've crossed that finish line. You have 2 different quarterbacks that can do very different things. So if you do get into a pinch, if you do get into a bind, let's say somehow the Steelers they make the wild card. We'll just say Steelers make the wild card. It's critical game time. They're in the red zone. They need a score. But Russell Wilson has been struggling in the red zone throughout that whole game. You bring in Fields that adds a whole different element, and now this guy runs it in instead of having to throw it in, and you know what I mean? So they might be able to play with that to their advantage, and we've heard rumors of them utilizing that in the regular season, but we'll see as the season progresses if they, in fact, install that type of a red zone offense or what have you.
Right. And, I'm kind of with you on the same aspect. Like, we know that Russell Wilson has been a prima donna at times, especially after, again, winning the first Super Bowl. That's when it kind of started to kickstart into this whole thing. And then, obviously the Let's Ride and all the other things he's done and all this other crap. Lingo that he's throwing out there, the video with Sierra and stuff. We get that. But you can't tell me that he's not a better quarterback than Justin Fields right now with that team and what he's been able to do. I don't think he's washed up at all. I think he's been able to play at a decent level last season, and he can do the same thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. And that's all he's kind of been asked to do, is do something for us like right now. And that's the reason why they went and got Justin Fields in hopes that maybe he could do something. And he did get you some wins early on against some teams here, and even they beat upset a team too. That was one of last year's playoff teams. But he's got to learn. And so hopefully the whole thing is that he can maybe learn something, from Russell Wilson. They seem to get along real well. They've said it in the broadcast that these guys get along. They talk to
saw
each
it on
other.
the sidelines.
I guess he was a fan of Russell Wilson, when he was younger too. So, potentially he can do something and learn something a little better, because Justin Fields was holding the offense back a little bit. So you hope that potentially now, after this Russell Wilson, thing is over, he's limited. He isn't going to sign a long-term extension. If anything, he's not going to do that. So you have Justin Fields in your back pocket. And one thing that I've learned about the Pittsburgh Steelers, you just can't write them off, especially if Mike Tomlin's there. I've tried to do it a bunch of different times, and he just proves me wrong every single time somehow. And I see the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though the quarterback of the future potentially might not be on the roster right now, I can foresee them grabbing them, in the future here, and having a smooth transition from, Russell Wilson or even Justin Fields, into the next guy. Just because good franchises do things like that. And this team has been relevant for a very long time. That's the reason why they don't get rid of head coaches so often as many other teams. They stay winning and stuff like that, and because they're a good franchise and they're well run. So I can potentially see it still be a decent transition moving out of the Russell Wilson / Justin Fields era here. And I don't think it's that scary as like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Well, that's the thing too, is you talk about transition. Now that's going to be a turning point in the organization. I feel like it's key this offseason is they're going to have to find a future quarterback. Now, whether they decide and feel confident enough to pick one of the quarterbacks that are currently on the roster, they could give Russell Wilson a 3-year deal. They could keep him. They could give Justin Fields a long-term deal and just have him as their starter. But if they do, in fact, go and move on from those guys, they've given up compensation for them. And I just not sure if it's a smart decision to move on from them, let them go to free agency, let them leave without even getting anything for them. And now you're in a spot where you have no answer, and you're going to go into the draft, and you're going to have to what? Just send the rookie out there, and hopefully he can turn it around. I feel like that's a very unstable type of way of thinking. I just don't see how that will work. I think they have to keep one of these quarterbacks, and most likely it's going to be the younger guy. It's going to be Fields that they're going to keep to at least maybe he can help them, like he did already in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the answer, but if at least they can keep him, he'll be the starter. It'll add as an insurance policy for whoever they do end up acquiring.
Right. Mike Tackett says, Steelers Nation, let's survive. Oh, man.
Oh, I love it.
Haters out there. All right.
Like
So,
so
second
funny.
part B of his question again. He says, showing you isn't there next, although close second for him in second place is the Colts quarterback room. And that is scary. That is scary right there. Just
I'll tell you what's scary about that.
What's up?
The fact that they drafted Anthony Richardson so high.
Yeah.
And the fact that now that there's that coach, Steichen, is locked into that pick.
Mm-hmm.
That was his selection. He really wanted Anthony Richardson, and he got him, but he's not right. He's not ready in the NFL. He only had 1 full year of experience in college as a starter. And yes, he's young, he's talented. You look at the build, you look at the athletic ability, the speed, and all that. It's great. But what do you need to do as a quarterback at this level? You need to be able to throw the ball and get it to your playmakers. And that's what he struggles with. He doesn't always hit it. He doesn't make all the necessary throws.
Yep.
He's a lot of times he's off platform trying to throw the ball. It throws wild. He throws over the receiver. Point blank period. He's just not accurate.
Yo.
And that's the biggest problem. And until you work on footwork and his mechanics, and he's got a long way to go if he is to ever become a starting caliber quarterback. Forget like face of the franchise, but just to be an adequate starter. He's got a long way to go. And I feel like this is something that they didn't plan on. They thought they could work with him and somehow find a niche to where they could win games with him, and that's the way it's going to be. But you look at Indy, it's absolutely terrible. You invested that high of a pick. It's not working out 9 times out of 10. When you're tied to a quarterback with that high pick and it doesn't work out, guess what? You lose your job because you're not going to be winning games, just like the Colts are doing right now. Now, the only silver lining of all this is the fact that they were smart enough to sign an insurance policy that is Joe Flacco. And when Joe Flacco has been given the reins and said, here, Joe, you start. Okay, no problem. 30 points this week, 20 points that week. He's dishing the ball around, throwing dimes everywhere. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr., they're all having a great time when Flacco's in because they're getting the ball, they're scoring, the offense is working when he's at quarterback.
Yeah.
When Richardson is in, it's not working, and they end up getting the losses keep mounting up. Now, with the decision that they've decided from this day forth, Joe Flacco will be the starter.
Yeah,
And it took him this long. Because my thing is, the
when it
last
comes to
time
wanting
when
to
he
keep
took
his
over,
job, yeah.
but that's my thing. If you wanted to keep your job, bro, you had to be smart enough to be like, you know what? Early on, when Richardson first got hurt again, and you put Joe Flacco in, and you saw what he could do versus what Richardson was able to do, you rock with Flacco. Who knows? The Colts right now could have been a 500 team. They could have been above 500 if Flacco was there right from the start. So now that you're wising up and you're hoping that you can turn this thing around and get back into the race with Flacco, who knows if it's even too late.
Yeah, and I think the Flacco signing really was insurance policy in case Anthony Richardson got injured again. I don't think is like potentially if he was going to play terribly. I think they signed Joe Flacco.
It might be a little bit of both.
Well, it is now. That's what I mean. But I think their initial signing, I think it was because they're like, hey, in case he gets banged up again, we've got Joe Flacco here to go in. And now it's turned out to be, hey, blessing in disguise the fact that, your quarterback's playing terrible. You can put Joe Flacco in there. And here's the numbers here for him right now. His completion percentage is 44.4% right now on the season. I don't think I've ever seen a completion percentage that low before, ever, like in my whole lifetime. Excuse me. 4 touchdowns, 7 INTs. Absolutely putrid, man. Absolutely putrid.
Terrible.
All right, so all right, trading out there. Who else we got here out there to potentially can be on the docket?
Trade prospects. D tackle from the Tennessee Titans, Sebastian Joseph Day. This is a guy who's a veteran out there, and we've seen teams, that playoff caliber teams, that could really use a D tackle right now. You think of the Buffalo Bills. We talked about them recently and on how that interior of the D-line needs to be upgraded. It needs to work. This would be a smart play. This guy's 29 years old. He hasn't, he's close to that 30-year-old mark, but still hasn't reached it. And then you also got to look at the San Francisco 49ers. They're another team that really could use interior D-line help with guys dropping like flies. Javon Hargrave, done for the year. That was their big guy in the middle. You don't have him. So there's a couple teams right there that could definitely use a guy like Sebastian.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there too. And you even brought up a team last night here that could potentially go and try and grab a D tackle to help them out on the defensive side of the ball and maybe help turn their season around even while they still have a chance right now. And that's the Cincinnati Bengals right now. Interior defensive linemen to help out that push there to alleviate some of the stress off of Hubbard and Hendrickson. So who knows? Maybe some of those guys do decide to pull the trigger on it. Like I like what you're talking about here with some of the other playoff contending teams or teams that are trying to make the playoffs here. 49ers in a race here for this division to where Arizona is tied right now at first, and it's anybody's ball game right now. And now that the Rams are getting healthy again, I mean they're back in the mix. That's a really exciting division there too. When you talk about the NFC North and how it was the best division and things like that, that West might not be some of the best teams out there, but it's so close right now. It's so exciting to watch and watch that race going forward.
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right. So what else do we got here? Do you got anybody else here on the docket?
Of course I do, Jim. You know
What else
how
you got here? I haven't heard of
deep dive. Buda Baker, safety for the Cardinals.
Okay.
Now, this is an interesting one because obviously we know from a couple years ago the rumors out there Buda Baker wanted out of Arizona. And then that kind of died after he started to see some things that he liked that were changing with new coaching staff and some new coordinators coming in. Now, to me, this is interesting because I think there are teams actually actively calling Arizona about him. Teams like the Ravens, teams that are going to be in the hunt. Houston's also another team where they could definitely use an upgrade on that safety in the back end there at safety because To make it through the playoffs is going to be very difficult. You might as well try at least pick up the phone, call Arizona, see what the availability is on a guy like this because he can do it all. He can cover, pass coverage is amazing. Can play the run. He's very physical, can make solid tackler. Like there's a lot to like with Budda Baker. And I feel like a couple of those playoff teams like the Ravens, maybe Houston are looking for maybe an upgrade here. As we get down the stretch of the season.
All right.
Because I don't see Arizona making the playoffs.
No.
And his contract, honestly, it's a lot of money. And I want to pull it up right here.
Yeah.
But for the Cardinals, it might not be a bad thing because he's not the youngest dude on left on this team. He's probably one of the aging veterans that are left from his draft class. And as I pull up the Arizona Cardinals here, we look at Budda Baker. Budda Baker right now is making $14 million as a safety for the Cardinals. I'm going to look into. He's 28 years old, so he is getting closer to. And honestly, this is his contract year. This is it. Now, can the Cardinals even afford this guy? Because that number from a $14 million base salary is going to go extremely high. And are they going to really put in and give him that kind of money for a 28-year-old safety? A couple years reaches that 30-year mark. Are you going to really invest in him again and pay a lot more, a bigger raise? So that's to me, that's where I'm thinking is that his time in Arizona could possibly be done because even if he doesn't get traded and they play the rest of the season and whatnot, now he's a free agent, or at least due to be. Cardinals got to make a very tough decision because this is an organization that isn't ready to win right now.
Yeah.
They are being competitive, no doubt about it. They're playing, they're overachieving this year.
Yep.
But they are not ready to win now. So with that being said, do you trade this guy as a commodity, obtain vast amounts or at least a couple of draft picks for his services, and that way you can use that to build your team even further with younger talent. So that's something that, is going to be a tough decision for the Cardinals as we get, closer to the trade deadline.
I'm trying to think of who a potential suitor might be for them, though. It's tough to see who would want to even pull that trade off.
Well, Houston makes a lot of sense. Houston makes a lot of sense. They could definitely use him, especially when their safety's gone down for the year. That's a move that you got to make. Look at what Minnesota Vikings just did.
Yeah,
you can tell when a team has ran well. When a team knows that they're on track to make the playoffs or at least be competitive to make it, maybe make the wild card at least, they make moves when injuries pop up. Christian Darrisaw, the left tackle for the Vikings, goes down last week, done for the year. Their left tackle, key loss. What do? In a few days' time, left tackle for the Jaguars, Cam Robinson, is now a Viking. They pulled off a trade and got themselves a starting caliber tackle. So they're not going to be completely derailed. There's going to be an adjustment period. But, again, they're making an effort to stay and be competitive and push for the playoffs. So, there's teams out there that definitely would be calling for them. I just don't know what the asking price would be from Arizona.
right.
How much do they value him? And if you price it too high, it's not going to be a first rounder. It's definitely not for a safety. But maybe you could get a third rounder for Budda Baker. Maybe you could get a third and a fifth, something of that nature to kind of maybe pull the trigger on that.
Yeah.
But again, you also got to pay him. You got to pay him his money after this year. So whatever team does trade for him, if that happens, you got to be willing to pay a big time contract too on top of it.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
So
if
it's always
ends up being one of those teams.
It's always
like
that fun battle for an organization where do you let him just kind of play out the year, let him walk in free agency, or are you really going to tag this guy? And you're still going to have to pay him more money than you're paying him now,
right?
Just to have him for one more year,
Yeah,
or
I
do
don't
you
think
want to
so.
trade
I
him
think
and get some draft capital because you're not ready to win right now?
Yeah.
Let's just face it, you're not.
Yep.
So I mean that's a fun conversation because it is, we're halfway through the year already.
Right.
Now's the time to move him if you're going to move him. If not, who knows what's going to happen in the offseason.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Houston. I think that does make a fit here for them, especially if they want to kind of make a push here. I thought maybe in the Falcons, maybe too, for a potential just for this year, in case they, and then maybe.
Well, they already
try and sign him
invested
then
heavily
too,
in that secondary.
but who knows?
I
All right,
don't
what
think
else?
so.
What else we got?
We have not a very big name, but a guy that might be on the move because we've heard from the Patriots that, they're actually looking to trade for a wide receiver, but maybe they're also looking to get rid of a
about time.
couple of theirs because other teams are going to need them because the injuries piling up. Maybe get just like a 7th round for KJ Osborne from the Patriots.
Yeah.
Just kind of flip him, get a draft pick for him, utilize that for this upcoming draft, and keep trying to build that team. It's just a small time move that they could utilize because they are also looking to trade for a better wide receiver option.
Yep.
Like obviously they got Demario Douglas, who's actually been playing really well,
he's doing
except
better.
for last week.
Yeah.
Last week he didn't have a very
Yeah.
good game, but I still
couple
think
drops.
he's got tremendous talent, and I think they're going to keep building him. You see the rapport between Drake May and him, so that they're going to keep utilizing that. But they're definitely looking for offensive line, for wide receivers. They're definitely looking to make a move. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, but this could be another avenue that they look at by getting rid of Osborne, who's barely playing anyway, and get a draft pick for him at least.
Right.
Small
right.
time.
Yeah,
Now,
something.
something that's not small time, and this guy's name has been through around league circles, on the phones. Zadarius Smith, the edge rusher. It's another edge rusher that's out there from the Cleveland Browns. But here's the thing, is you're not getting a young guy in Zadarius. You're getting a guy that's older, that's past 30, that he still can bring some heat. Like, he can still play well for you. But could this be a move where, like we mentioned the Detroit Lions, Atlanta Falcons could be another one. But we've always seen every year that the Eagles make some kind of a trade. Every year, that it seems like no fail. They make some kind of a trade to further bolster the D-line or whatever. We saw the big, huge trade when they traded for A.J. Brown. Like, they seem to do something. It might not be the biggest splash, but they always seem to do something. This could be a sneaky move for the Eagles where if they want to further bolster that pass rush, they could bring in a Zadarius Smith, low draft pick. You're not going to have to give up a high draft pick for this guy because of his age and looking to pursue that playoff. Same thing with the Detroit Lions. That could be another team that's in play.
Yep.
Atlanta could be in play.
Yep.
Because honestly, pass rushers, especially good pass rushers, they don't grow on trees.
Right.
And if anything tells you, if you've been paying attention to the drafts that have been happening, even when you take a guy in the top 5, they don't always pan out. As much as as big as the hype is, and as much as we are convinced that dude's going to be an animal, a lot of times it just doesn't work. So this is a guy who's solid and that could bring some value to whatever team obtains him.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him fitting in any of those teams too. I was looking at Atlanta too, possibly. All those guys that were looking for that edge rusher here, I think it would still fit in nicely.
Another one I got here, and his name kind of was floating around there last year for the Saints, Marshawn Lattimore, a guy who is getting older at corner. But here's the thing: is this guy does not seem to stay healthy that often. So it might be a tougher sell. And maybe it comes down to just giving up a low-round pick to get him just because of the injuries and the contract that you're going to have to take when you do, in fact, trade for him. Because I believe he is just over 30. I'm going to double-check. But Marshawn Lattimore, like, that's another player where we've heard other teams interested in him last year. It never actually panned out. Like, no trade ever got consummated last season. But what the heck's going on here? This computer. But But yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's another name because here's the thing: is like the Saints started off really strong first 2 weeks. They were blowing out the first two teams they played. Like it was incredible. They blew out the Cowboys, I think, in week 2. Week 1, I even forget who they played, but they handled them as well.
Yep.
And things were looking up for the Saints after the first 2 weeks. Then Clint Kubiak decided to change everything up, and that team looked like a shell of itself. Now you look at this team who constantly is in financial purgatory every year, always looking to fight their way out of salary cap hell. Marshawn Lattimore makes basically nothing in terms of base salary right now. But as far as bonuses go, he's making $10 million. He is only 28. I'm surprised. It seems like this dude's been in the league forever, but he's only 28 years old. His contract runs through 2026. So next season and the year after, his base salary is $16 million. So that's a lot of money. And obviously, if the Saints were smart, this guy's always injured. Why not get out of this contract no matter what you're going to be able to get for him? I don't care if you get a 5th rounder for this guy. Just to unload the contract, get rid of it. The dude is injured all the time anyway. He's not on the field enough. You know, what have you done for me lately? Mm-hmm. Move on from him. Get a draft pick or 2 for him and move on.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he would.
Kansas City Chiefs makes a lot of sense to me for Marshawn Lattimore.
At first, but I don't
it
know,
makes a lot of it because they just got an injury with one of their one of their starting corners, and he's done. So why not bring in? Hey, you're bringing in all these other vets. Hopkins is there now. You might as well bring in Marshawn Lattimore and see how that works out. Mm-hmm. Ravens could be another one because as much as they drafted Nate Higgins, that dude is often banged up like we kind of thought was going to happen. Guy that's so lanky like he is, lightweight. But what's it going to hurt to bring in another little bit of extra cornerback help here that could really help out, especially the fact that Marlon Humphrey is another guy that's often injured. You know, he's in and out of the lineup every single year too. So going down the stretch of the playoffs, it's just smart to get ahead of the rush, get ahead of it and see if it'll work out for your team. Another one I got here is Jonathan Jones from the New England Patriots. Jonathan Jones has been doing pretty good for the Patriots throughout his career. But then again, he is 31 years old. You know, he might be a team that might be looking to move on from him, get a draft pick, because this is a team that's not in win-now mode like we expressed earlier. So why not unload him, move him, get a draft pick? You know, because honestly, like you're not going to re-sign. Let's face it, you're not going to re-sign Jonathan Jones after this year. You're not going to give him a long-term deal to keep him there. 31-year-old corner. It's only going to be downhill from here. Cash in while you can. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know. Some of these they could, but I don't know.
But these are the moves that you can make for cheap.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Where
I get that.
it's not going to cost you anything
right now. Yeah.
And it makes sense because what's a team going to do? A team's not going to spend a lot of money to keep them after this year. Mm-hmm. You might as well cash in now. Now's the time unless you're a playoff caliber team and one of these guys are on your team, and you might decide to hold on to them. But let's face it, a lot of these players, like those teams, are not going anywhere anytime soon. The Saints are one of those teams where we initially thought was a playoff caliber team, but so far with Derek Carr being out, getting loss after loss, not really doing much. And by the time it sounds like Carr's ready to come back this week, but it's still iffy. He might even miss this week. So, you know, I mean, you got these contracts that you're going to have to shell out money to. You're not going to be able to afford them. And that leads me to another player from the Saints, is Chase Young. You signed him in free agency to a 1-year deal anyway. I get it. You signed him. You thinking you had Carr. You got a new offensive coordinator. This team should progress, get better, be a playoff caliber team. Well, it's not looking like that right now. So
how about Chase Young, though? How about that? He had, he came on so fast, and, you're like, wow, look at this guy. You know, all of a sudden, Washington making the playoffs, facing Tom Brady, had Tom Brady's respect here in the playoffs. And then now he can't even find a spot on the roster going, team to team, for a season here, season there. How quickly he kind of dropped off, right?
I don't think he dropped off. I mean, I think it's mounting injuries is the problem. This guy, and of course you're not going to keep him when he constantly gets injured. Think about when Washington. He came on as a rookie and looked good. Like, he didn't look great. He looked good, then got injured. And after that injury, every single year, out for the year, out for the year, out for the year. Yeah. Washington said, we had it. We're done. Yep. We're moving on from you. We're trading you away. And now you look at him, he signs a one-year deal with San Fran, spends a little time in San Fran, has a few sacks, all well and nice. But then San Fran is even like, well, he didn't really make that much of an impact, so we're not going to pay him that kind of money. And now he's with the Saints on a one-year deal. It's a prove-it deal. Everywhere he's gone with the Niners, with the Saints, it's a prove-it deal. And so far, he hasn't proven himself. I mean, he hasn't ever been the dominating pass rusher that he was drafted to be. So until you prove otherwise, it's time to hit the bricks again. I mean, this is again another player that they signed money to have him here for 1 year. Unload it. Get rid of it. Get rid of the contract. Get rid of him because, let's be honest, the Saints don't plan on re-signing too many players, especially ones that are going to cost them money to hold on to, because we all know that next year they're going to have to do the same thing over again. They're going to be well over the cap again, maybe not as much, but they are going to be over the cap again. They got to fight their way to get under it again. You might as well start cashing in and getting rid of some of these contracts, especially these bigger types like Marshawn Lattimore. And obviously, a pass rusher that could possibly be up for grabs. The regular teams that we've already said, Lions, Atlanta, maybe another team that we're not thinking about, but that's the name of the game. And then my top one that I can't believe is still, we just mentioned him earlier in the show, is Azeez Ojulari. Like, it makes no sense. This guy, he's not only is he young, but he's got production to back it up too. Like, even in a rotational, position that he's in with Brian Burns emerging as their pass rusher, Azeez got 5 sacks this year. Azeez has got production. Now, if you put him out there full time, who knows what he could do? Maybe he could be the next up and coming pass rusher in the NFL. And maybe he could get 8, 9, possibly 10 sacks before the end of the year. It would be something to see, but again, one of these teams, Detroit, Atlanta, somebody, why aren't you calling the New York Giants right now, or last week even? As soon as Detroit lost Hutchinson, I'm surprised that Detroit wasn't making some phone calls around the league. Cleveland, what do you want for Za'Darius? Giants, what do you want for Azeez? Why? I can't. And for a team like the Lions, who we know, bearing something catastrophic happens to that team, they are playoff bound. So you need to gear up for that run. You need to. After losing Hutchinson, get this guy Azeez Ojulari.
Yeah, I think a couple teams out there, and I don't know, maybe the Giants just really aren't throwing them out there and shopping them. Maybe they just
they're shopping them.
I don't know,
because they're not going to pay him. After this year, they're not paying him. He's going to be a free agent. They're not tagging him. They're not paying him. They're going to look to trade him to get that draft capital. But again, another team has to be interested too. That's the other thing. Is as much as we say like this is a no-brainer kind of move, these other teams like Detroit, Atlanta, like they got to be the ones picking up the phone and seeing what the Giants are looking for to get him. I think it's a mid-round pick all day long. Maybe it's a 4th rounder that the Giants are looking for. Cool, give it.
Yep.
Like why are you sitting on your hands at this point?
I'm wondering if Chase Young could go back to Washington.
No. Not even with the new regime.
I don't know.
No.
They could use him.
No. The owner would put a stop to that.
I don't know. If it's just a loaner right now?
Constantly injured.
No, I get it. I know. But, I mean, it trades that, the value's not going to be there.
But draft picks are valuable. So unless you're convinced that you're that you're going to need him and you're going to pay him, because that's the other part of it is that you're not just, oh, we're going to make a trade. We're going to give you a draft pick that we could otherwise use just for the 8 games left. And then we're just going to let him go to free agency and leave for nothing. Like, we're going to give up a draft pick to lose him after this year. I understand where you're going with it, but
Yeah,
at the same time,
right now for him.
I just don't see it.
You know what I mean? And that's nothing. Like, who cares?
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever go back to Washington. A lot of times, players that leave a team never go back.
I hear you. All right. So is that it for the?
That's it for the list.
All right, there you go. We'll see. You know, we've got until next Tuesday, right? Next Tuesday to figure
November
it out.
5th.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. So we'll keep our fingers near the pulse on that one. So Joe, we got the missing player of the week. We kind of talked about this guy already when Mike Tackett brought up quarterbacks and stuff. So this is a 2-timer now. Within this short season already, he's already on the milk carton twice. We had to. I mean, I'm looking at other players out there, and this guy was so putrid that it's got to be Anthony Richardson again. Like I brought up his
he's already missing. How did you find him and miss him again? Because he hasn't shown up.
He hasn't.
He just hasn't.
Yes, that's true. That is true. But again, 10 for 32 last week for a 31% completion percentage.
So good.
175 yards, 1 touchdown somehow, and 1 interception. Sacked 5 times. Fumbled twice. I mean, everything terrible. You know what I mean? And then the cherry on top, taking yourself out of the game. Tapping out because you're gassed a little bit. Like, bro,
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. You're done. You know, so maybe that is the last time we see him on the carton. Because who knows? We might never find him. So you know, what I mean, it might never ever be found ever again. Joe. So all right, here we go. It's our Halloween show. Every Halloween we do this thing called Trick or Treat. It's a lot of fun. You guys play along with us. What I do is we basically come up with like a couple of statements. A lot of times it's 5 or so. And the game is trick or treat. Is it a trick, you know, that this statement is not true? You know, you're tricking us, or is it a treat? Like, hell yeah, we believe this statement. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Here's our trick or treat. Let's get into it. My first trick or treat is Justin Fields will start another game before the end of the season, Joe. Trick or treat.
Bearing an injury, I guess so, yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's the only reason why he would be out there as a starter. I definitely don't think he's going to be a starter just because Russell Wilson's got it. So, I mean, honestly, it's not even a straight answer, really. Like, it does depend on injury. So I'm just going to say
and
it's a trick.
That's what's funny is because I think I threw it out there just because we kind of think it's probably just because of injury. But some people, again, are probably like Mike Tackett. Doesn't believe in Russell Wilson at all. He's a hater. He's like, you know, Justin Fields.
Well, people need to catch up. All right.
People feel that Justin Fields should
24
already be
touchdowns and 7 interceptions as a Denver Bronco with Sean Payton screaming down your neck every time you go out there. That shows me, you know, a guy that can get it done.
Right.
And he's already in 2 games way more productive as a passer than Fields was in all of his.
He's more productive than Patrick Mahomes is right now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And that's not
true.
saying much.
Right.
As much as people don't want to hear that, Mahomes is having a very bad year.
Yeah,
He just is. Let's be honest.
All right.
Granted, it does help when you're on a very good football team that can cover up some of those lapses.
Yep, most definitely. All right, talking about Mahomes here, the Kansas City Chiefs will three-peat. Trick or treat?
Trick. Don't see it happening. Definitely not the same type of offense that they used to have. Not a high-profile offense. And I just don't – I can't see that team overcoming too many hurdles as they get closer to the playoffs. I think other teams are going to get better as the season progresses. Mm-hmm. You see the Buffalo Bills pulling off a trade for Amari Cooper, which, honestly, that's put them over big time. You look at how much that offense has changed. That team right now, and I get it. There are some of the aspects like, okay, defensive side of the ball isn't as strong now. Okay, you're right. But when you're playing the Chiefs, there's weaker teams that play them that have stopped them and made them go 3 and out way more times than ever. Like, that doesn't happen to them. They somehow, some way will always sustain the drive and keep it going and end up with a score, whether it be a field goal or touchdown. We're not seeing that this year from them. We're seeing them get stalled out. The depleted Raiders defense, who they just played, they had 3 and outs quite often. That's why they only had 27 points. They should have buried the Raiders. It should have not even been close. It should have been like 38 to like 14 or something like that. But it wasn't. It went down, not down to the wire necessarily. They had the lead the whole time, but for the Raiders to come back and still be only down a touchdown at the end of that game, that shows me that right there. And I know that's one example, but when you watch the other games that they've played, they are not just destroying teams anymore.
Right.
It's close. They just barely get by. The Chargers-Chiefs game, that was close all the way down to the end. So that tells me if you're struggling at all, especially offensively, to put points on the board, your defense is not the problem. The Chiefs' defense is stellar. It's very good. High-pressure type of defense. But if you're struggling to put points on the board, when you face a team like maybe at the end of the year, like the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, and meet them again in the postseason, you might quite possibly get dominated in the playoffs now because they are able to put up points, and now you're the ones trying to chase them. And it's when you become that team where you're behind and you're always chasing, 9 times out of 10 it just doesn't work out. So I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs, as good of an organization they are, as well run as they are, their defense is amazing, and that's what keeps them in games. But that the points for the offense, for them not to be able to score as often or as easily as they used to, that to me is what leads me to believe that they are not going to be able to, when it comes time for the playoffs, they're not going to be that three-peat caliber team.
For me, it's tough because, again, I feel like they aren't playing at their potential right now. So when they eventually do, I think then they're real scary. We talked about it last night here when I had named them as one of my scariest teams here, because that's what, they're grabbing some of these free agents here. They're trying to keep it going. Still the whole time being undefeated right now and not playing their best football. So come playoff time, if they do, it could be really scary. But on the other hand, like what you're talking about, if they never come around, and they just keep grasping at this and trying to make moves to do something, and still nothing really happens. And then when they do hit that wall in come playoff time, and they meet one of these other teams that is a superpower, they're going to get demolished. You know what I mean? And that potentially could happen. And on the side of caution and like looking at history, I would say that it's a trick as well, because it's very unlikely that we will get a three-peat here with the Kansas City Chiefs, despite again their record. But again, if they keep playing the way they are, I could see them definitely going down.
The other thing of it too is how much more evidence do you need? We're halfway through the year already. It's not like we've only seen them play 3 games.
Yep,
they're halfway through the year. So if they haven't figured out after half of the season already, then 9 times out of 10, they're not going to figure it out the rest of the 8 games that they got to play.
All right, here we go. Next up, the Cowboys will miss the playoffs. Trick or treat?
Oh man, this is kind of one of those trick or treats where you really want to say treat because of how they've been playing, how one-dimensional that offense is, and despite them getting healthier on defense, Deron Bland looks like he's returning. Micah Parsons could possibly return this week. They might be at full steam ahead on defense, but man, the way that offense is working right now, like I gotta say, like they're definitely at risk of actually missing the playoffs. And I think when you look at that division, you got Washington on the rise, you got the Eagles closely behind them, and the Giants, honestly, playing great defensive football. And the offense just hasn't been able to catch up to it. So it's so competitive in that division and the NFC in its entirety. Now that a lot of teams have definitely gotten better after a couple off seasons. I don't know. I think it's a treat. I think the Cowboys might actually miss this postseason.
That is one big pile of shit.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't missed the playoffs since 2020 when Mike McCarthy came there for this first season. Since then, again, 12-win seasons here, making the playoff. But again, what's the stigma? One and done. You know, these guys are out early. This one, what they're dealing with injuries and then even lackluster offensive play, no running game whatsoever. That could be a problem here in the long run going down because this is where they're going to lose to teams that will run.
To teams.
Right, exactly. And it's teams that can run because their defense can't stop the run either. So they can't even run the ball. Defenses can't stop the run. And you see with playoff teams, what wins you the games? The teams that can run and the teams that have a good defense. And right now, the Dallas Cowboys are doing neither of those. So I could see this being a treat as well.
My thing, too, is I have another little bit of a pet peeve for Dallas is the fact that when they hired Mike Zimmer to be their D coordinator, Mike Zimmer is like kind of almost like a has-been.
Yeah.
He's not – if you look at that roster defensively, that roster is full of young, athletic talent from top to bottom on that defense where I'm like, there's no way this Cowboys defense is this bad. There's no way that they're giving up these big chunk plays and big runs. And I'm like, man, you got to be able to do more with this defense than what they've only been able to obtain. So I kind of put part of – not putting the full blame, but I'm putting part of the blame on Mike Zimmer as D coordinator for them not playing as well as I think they should. Talent-wise, they should be playing way better than this defensively.
Yep.
But like we talked about with Dak Prescott, I don't think it's a Dak thing. I don't think it's a CeeDee Lamb thing. I don't think it's the lack of running. It's the protection up front. And those two key pieces right there, they continue to struggle on offense, which is going to hurt them as they go through their season.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I can see that totally there, too, as well. All right, here we go. Trick or treat. Here we go. We got two more. Here we go. Taylor Swift is more to blame for Travis Kelce's decline rather than age.
Yeah, she's sucking him dry.
She's sucking the life out of him.
That poor man, he's putting overtime in.
Dry.
That guy is they're not only on tour with her, he's also doing commercial, way more commercials now than he ever has. He's involved in her stuff. They go to
stuff with his brother more
different events now. He's got Jason Kelce who's recently retired. They're doing
I think
things
he's
together.
in a movie now or something too, or made for TV
they
show.
They do a podcast
or something like that too.
And Travis is also, and it's got to be from her star power.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's even involved in some kind of a thriller horror type of TV show or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's this dude is putting in work in more ways than one. Mm-hmm. He's putting in work with Taylor and putting in work in the business. Mm-hmm. So this guy is he's burning the candle on both ends.
He starts
and
to come
he just
and he
can't.
pulls out.
He looks like a shell of himself out there. Even him having a very good last week, in terms of production and getting involved in the offense.
Yep.
He didn't look the same as he normally does. He doesn't look as spry. He doesn't look as energetic. Not even it doesn't.
Right.
It almost seems like he's gotten to the age now where he's just I'm going to do this to fulfill my contract, and I'm going to play well. But I'm not really feeling this.
It's kind of like you see because what do you notice when Travis Kelce, when he gets the catch, he's kind of yards after catch, and when he kind of drives, with the ball afterwards and kind of, hits people with that fire, it doesn't seem like he does. It seems like he catches it.
He's getting hit.
Yeah, and then kind of goes down. And he's like, okay, it doesn't seem like he has that drive like what you're.
Well, no, I think age has crept up now, and you're seeing that when he gets hit hard, he gets up slower. He doesn't pop right up anymore. He still does his little bit of celebration when he gets first downs, but it's not as fiery or intense like it used to be. I feel like.
Right, no more fight for your right to party, huh? Maybe not.
He's all worn out, man.
Fight for your right to snuggle.
Yeah,
there you go.
That could be his new slogan.
Could be his new one. That's right. Yeah. Or maybe he'll use he won't do the Beastie Boys anymore. He'll use a Taylor Swift song.
Oh man, that poor. He's just wiped.
He's like, you knew we were trouble when we walked in.
He's into too much right now.
All right, here we go. All right, and our last one here for trick or treat. The Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL, Joe.
Ooh, you know what? It's tough not to say they aren't. Honestly, like the way that offense has been playing the last 3 weeks, they've been even breaking milestones as an offense, breaking records as a Detroit Lions organization. I know for some people it's not saying much because, but they are shattering some records as an offense, a firepower that you have to deal with. And then defensively, we thought in the offseason, we did think like, okay, they're going to be better, but we didn't think they'd be this much better. Like they have definitely taken a huge leap forward on that defensive side of the ball, and the whole team is playing complementary football. Like that's what they're doing, and they're dominating teams so far. So they're going to get punched in the mouth. They're going to have to face some adversity. It's gonna come. We don't know yet what team is going to step up to do that, but when that happens, we'll see how they respond. But as of right now, you got to say treat. Like they are definitely playing at an elite level as a football team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. I just hope they can keep it rolling here come playoff time as well. So I agree. I agree as well. I think they are, at least on everything right now, the way they're rolling. I think they're the best right now. So there you go. That is trick or treat here for us. 2024. There it is. All right, Joe.
Yes,
now
sir.
you know what time it is. It's time for the picks competition. Here we go. It's our pick time. There's the records right there, 72-51 and 70-53. There we are. It's still tight. It's early. We're starting to come around here together.
It only took us half the season.
Back. Yeah.
It only took us that to figure it out.
Yeah, we've actually come around quicker than the Kansas City Chiefs have right now.
That's
Joe.
right.
So
See,
how about
we're
that?
making a turning point here.
Right.
We've
That's
made
right.
some acquisitions. We got rid of some of the trash, and now we're turning towards winning and going for the playoffs.
Well, I think, too, is some of these teams are actually starting to come out and be who they are. You know what I mean? We figured some of them out here.
Well,
There's a lot
yeah.
of them that were up and down, and you weren't sure.
a lot of it, too, has been injuries that have piled up early
Yeah.
in the season, and now they're starting to get healthier, and it's showing. Like, look at the 49ers. Like, they had to go through this week. Ricky Parasol, the rookie who got shot in the offseason or right before the season started, came back strong. He got heavily involved this past week.
Yep.
So it's like you had guys stepping up, but you also had Debo out there. But I don't feel like Debo was 100%.
No.
He was still playing with that illness, still trying to tough it out. I don't know how much progress he's made this week in terms of getting healthier. But again, I see him kind of struggling with that illness until he completely gets over it. But again, that's the name of the game. All the good teams, they find a way to overcome injuries. They find a way to win, and that's just the name of the game. Like that's what you got to do. So,
All right. Let's get right into it. Talk about teams that are trying to find a way to win. The New York Jets, again, looking terrible.
Wait, they find a way to win?
No, they need to try and find a way to win. That's the thing. They need to. Devontae Adams so happy to go there and get reunited with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And
Only to lose. Here's the funny thing. It was funny because before he got traded, he lost to the Steelers. Then after he got traded, he lost to the Steelers. This guy's just having a miserable season. And just because you think the grass is greener on the other side doesn't mean that's always true.
Yeah, absolutely. So for them, it's going to be a rough one. They are home here against the Houston Texans, but Houston Texans, even though they lost Stephon Diggs here for the rest of the season, still really good team, playoff-bound team. Jets have their work cut out for them. Their defense is going to try and keep them tight here for them, but they got to play complimentary football. Enough with the penalties. I just want to see limited penalties in this one because that's the name of it.
Ugh.
Tell you the truth, Joe. It's not exactly really turnovers and things like that because I don't think they're really turning the ball over. It's killing drives. Their drives are just getting killed by penalties. So if they can keep the penalties down, this game's competitive. That being said, though, I still believe in the Houston Texans over top of the New York Jets right now. And we're going to see what happens come the rest of the season if the Jets lose here and what the leadership here decides to do with the Jets.
Yeah, well, things aren't looking good for them because also we talk about injuries. Their offensive line is injured like crazy. Elijah Vera Tucker left the game last week.
Yep.
So far, he's out with an ankle, and that's as of today's practice. We'll have to monitor that as we get closer to Friday for the final designation. Morgan Moses, another guy, at least he's questionable. He practiced limited, has a knee issue. But this is a team that, as much as we've complained about this offensive line, not pass protecting for Rodgers, they are also getting banged up. That is very dangerous for the Jets because if they start to lose their starters that they just brought over or have been there, like Elijah Vera Tucker, then it's going to get way worse for Rodgers. He's going to take a lot more hits, and he might not last the season. We talked about how he himself, Rodgers, is having to fight through some nicks and bruises every single week, looking like an old man walking off the field, sometimes damn near disoriented, thinking that the play's over when they're going to run another play. So this team in itself is not just struggling on offense, but I feel like that defense is just out there on the field too much. I think that continues this week. And for the Houston Texans, they're a team that is much healthier. They're a team that is, and we mentioned Budda Baker earlier in the show, possibly maybe Texans are calling about him. Maybe they should make a move and bring him over because they're still waiting on Jimmy Ward, who they signed in the offseason, still out to this day. He just not available. So why not make a move, get a guy that's going to be there for you for the playoff hunt. But if they do it, it'd be great. If not, I still don't think it makes much of a difference, especially this week, because this is a team like the Jets. They're just on their back every week, and the Texans are going to take advantage of it tomorrow night.
All right, here we go. Dallas Cowboys and the Atlanta Falcons. Dallas, again, like we said, they've been losing lately. They need to get something here going, and sad enough, it's the offense that's the problem here too. On top of it, hopefully they can get Micah Parsons back this week. Atlanta, they're that up and down team. They're tough to read. You know what I mean? Sometimes they play well, sometimes it's an utter disaster here. You're not sure what you're going to get out of this team.
Right.
I want to believe in them, but
Yeah.
I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
They do play well here at home, but I think this is one of those games to where. This is a winnable one for Dallas, I think, at this point. They know pressure's on the line here. Jerry Jones and those guys, they know they're trying to win. They got to get it done here. And I think Atlanta's one of those teams to where I think I could see them giving this one up somehow to Dallas. So I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys on this one.
For the Cowboys, here's a concerning thing is that so far Micah Parsons hasn't practiced. Linval Joseph, another D tackle, hasn't practiced. Zach Martin, the guard, the former all-pro guard, he did not practice. I'll tell you this right now, if Zach Martin doesn't play, that offensive line's screwed because he's the key to holding this team together, especially offensively, and what's left of that offense. The defense is getting healthier, but again, they're still beat up. I mentioned Micah Parsons. Trayvon Diggs didn't practice. He had a calf issue. Like, is this going to be a Russell Wilson thing where he's got a calf issue, he's going to be out for 4 weeks? Like, that's something to monitor. And for the Falcons, they're actually kind of healthy coming into this matchup. Playing at home, I think this is kind of like the game where, like, this is for Atlanta in the NFC, this is a must-win against a Dallas Cowboys team that is floundering right now. This is a game where Kirk Cousins has to play a flawless game. He has to be smart with the ball. Can't make a stupid mistake and turn the ball over. And another thing that helps out the Atlanta Falcons, they were without Justin Simmons last week. He returns into the lineup this week. Give me the Falcons in this one at home against the Cowboys.
All right, next we got the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills here. Buffalo has been rolling, like we talked about last night, doing really well. Fitting in nicely. Keon Coleman played well last week too as well. Miami, a little rough getting back here with Tua. I think they are slowly going to bring it back here to what they've been before. But it's going to take a little bit, and it's tough because they have to play Buffalo here at home. So it's going to be a rough outing for them. I say I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills in this one.
Yeah, the one thing that I've definitely criticized about the Dolphins is they're another team that I feel like didn't invest enough on defense this offseason. I felt that they definitely should have attacked that side of the ball adding other pass rushers, whether it be in free agency, even in the draft, doing something. And again, they're yet again injured on that side of the ball again. And with Tua just returning last week, looked good, not great. Maybe he gets a little bit better now, this upcoming game. But the Bills have too much firepower at their disposal. They're getting healthier. They're going to be a lot to handle. Give me the Bills in this one over the Dolphins, but I do expect the Dolphins offense to kind of try to keep it close.
All right, next we got the Las Vegas Raiders and the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati's offense, no questions there. They've been doing really well here. Defense has been struggling a little bit here to help keep them in the games, but they will now face your Las Vegas Raiders, who look like they're struggling on top of things, too, especially offensively. So I think Cincinnati, they're due for a win. They've had to face some tough, teams here. Again, and just barely losing. And that's tough for a team like this, too, because, when you get that close, it's frustrating. I know Joe Burrow's frustrated. I think they take it out on the Vegas Raiders here. I like the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I expect the Bengals to win this one. I think this is an easy win for the Bengals. But, I mean, I got to say, it definitely depends on who they're going to start at quarterback, because if it's Minshew again, I think it's going to be a really bad day for the Raiders. They do, and it's funny because they did sign Desmond Ridder a couple weeks ago. I wonder how comfortable he is with the playbook and everything. If he does get to play, I don't expect him to kind of just all of a sudden magically turn this offense around and put up 40. But I think he would be a little bit better than what we've seen from Gardner Minshew. I don't know if that'll be enough to beat the Bengals, but again, the Raiders at this point, it's almost like they're trying to lose, I'll say, because Luke Getsy is still the offensive coordinator, hasn't been fired, and he deserves to be. So I think they continue to lose, and the Bengals win.
All right, next we've got the Los Angeles Chargers and the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns edge out a win barely last week with Jameis Winston, which should have been a pick to end the game here for them, but comes back and throws a touchdown pass right directly after that. But, Cleveland, I don't think they have enough here, too, with the Chargers. I believe the Chargers, they've been kind of found their niche a little bit here. I think the Chargers and Justin Herbert, I trust him as a quarterback over Jameis. I'm going to ride with the Chargers on this one.
Yeah, I'm not super excited about the Chargers. Haven't been from week one, and they keep proving me that I'm on the right side of this, because Jim Harbaugh is just tunnel vision on running the ball so heavily that when they do get behind, then they have to rely on Herbert. Then they become one-dimensional and have to pass to try to get back into games. And that's happened a couple times already this season where they've come up short because of it, that type of thinking. The Cleveland Browns, as funny as it is, Jameis Winston had a phenomenal return to starting quarterback. Just lit it up, throwing for 300 yards, couple of touchdown passes, and did an extremely good job. So I don't know. Maybe he's like giving the Cleveland Browns a little bit of a spark here, and I don't know how long that's going to last, because if anybody's paid attention to Jameis in his career, usually does tend to turn the ball over an awful lot. But so far in his debut as a Brown, hasn't done so. And I wonder, maybe it's because of the offense. But I'm going to rock with Cleveland in this one, giving them the edge being at home. And I just give them the edge because the Chargers, again, I feel like it's going to come down to if they do start to get behind. I just don't like the fact that then they become one-dimensional and have to try to fight to get back in it. Give me the Browns in this one.
There we go. All right,
Shocker.
the New England Patriots, Tennessee Titans. Mason Rudolph here at the helm now for the Tennessee Titans. Looks pretty good for them. As much as you can say, I guess, for the Titans. Still, it doesn't really make any difference for them. So their season, is in shambles here. But New England, they've showed some life here. And again, I like Drake May going into the draft. He was my favorite guy here. I wanted the Giants to be able to get him. That didn't work out. He's played well so far until he got injured with a head injury last week when he was scrambling. But Jacoby Brissett was able to come in and actually perform and finish the deal for them. I liked how they performed here against the Jets. So I think they have some a good potential to pull out a victory here against this Tennessee Titans team. I think they're in a better trajectory than what the Titans are doing right now. I'm going to go with the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans, they're a little bit banged up now, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're missing some key pieces there. With Will Levis, when it comes to Will Levis, he looks like he's due to come back and make his return. I'm not sure what the coaching staff's going to decide, whether they continue to rock with, Mason Rudolph and just say, hey, he's been doing a fairly good job. Might as well just keep rocking with him, seeing what happens. Or if they're just going to give it back to Will Levis. Well, if Will Levis does in fact play, just don't turn the ball over. We say this more times than not, and he still keeps doing that and giving the ball back to the other opposing team. Drake May is going through concussion protocol. Yeah. If he goes through the necessary channels like it sounds like he might be cleared before game time. And if that's the case, I think it's no doubt in my mind that the Patriots are going to put up a tougher fight and get the W.
Yeah, in Tennessee again. Like if I'm them, I'm starting Mason Rudolph because Will Levis, I don't think he's earned enough this season right now to say, hey, you're crowned the starter right now, because he's played terribly and lost the game for you a few different times. But Mason Rudolph, I don't think is losing the game right now.
But you could use that to your advantage, because what are you as a team? You're not a playoff caliber team. You're not a team ready to win now. Maybe you do it on purpose. Maybe you play Will Levis to get a higher pick.
Yeah.
And it's not listen, you're not sucking to get the high pick, but in a sense you're making the decision to. Let Will Levis bury us, because then we'll have a higher pick and we're going to take his replacement. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where like it's a catch-22. What do you really want to do? What are you trying to What are you trying to overcome
What's your
here?
new thing? Yeah, because they even say goals change, and things like that during the season.
Yeah.
What's your new goal?
Well, you have a new regime, new coaching staff. Will Levis isn't their guy. They could very easily just be like, well, let him bury himself. And then when it comes time to take that quarterback, have a quarterback competition, we can say, oh, well, the rookie beat him out fair and square, and that's going to benefit us. So just food for thought. Thinking on the other side of that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so next we've got the Denver Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh, this is a good one.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a really tight game here. Denver, both quarterbacks are going to be running around, I think, here, but I think ultimately Baltimore, I like Derrick Henry. They should just run Derrick Henry, tire out that defense, keep this a low-scoring game here. I like the Baltimore Ravens in this one.
That's going to be the deciding factor in this game, I feel like. Can the Broncos, who statistically aren't the best at stopping the run, can they stop Baltimore's running attack? Because if they can do that, I feel like that's when the Broncos could turn this game around and upset the Ravens. And it's two big-time defenses colliding in this matchup. I just think that I like the firepower that the Ravens have. I like that a little bit better. Lamar Jackson, his ability to not just run the ball, but also throwing that to all of those weapons that they have, very difficult to stay with. A guy like Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely, and obviously Mark Andrews is now coming back into the fold of that offense. But I just give the edge slightly more to a veteran-led Baltimore Ravens team that's been there, done that, has won, has made the playoffs. They're still going and pushing for that playoff run. I think this is going to be a test for them. Can they beat a playoff caliber defense that the Broncos have? Because let's face it, they are one of the best defenses in the league. And if they can, it's going to go a long way as they go further into the season. Give me the Ravens in this matchup.
All right, next up we got the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants. Again, Giants always find ways to beat themselves in these games here. Even though the defense, it sucks. I feel bad for those defensive players.
Yeah, they're playing ball.
So well right now. And if the offense can connect here as much as the defense is, then we might be talking something different about the Giants right now.
Yeah.
But Washington, they're playing really well. And I talked about it last night on the Blindside Blitz, and the fact that bad teams find more ways to lose, just like the Giants. Good teams seem like they have that they're destined to win, and that's what I think these Washington Commanders are kind of like. You saw it with the Hail Mary pass even there too. They might have been down in that game, but they were doing well in that game anyways. It was just kind of
They gave that game
shocking.
up.
Yeah,
they nearly gave it up.
Right. So I mean, it would have been sad if they end up giving that game up. It was disheartening, but there you go. The Hail Mary, it's successful, and they find ways to win, and there you go.
Yeah.
And the quarterback's tough. Again, you talk about his stature. You might get banged up, things like that, which he did, but taped up, throughout the game. Tough broken ribs here, whatever. Still making the throws and still hanging in there, and they pull out a victory. I see them doing against this tough Giants defense here too as well. Giants are going to try, but also at home their record sucks, Giants. So and I've been betting against them all this season, Joe. We're going to keep it going here. I like the Commanders.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels has to be careful with that rib injury because he took yet another really hard hit
early on.
In that game,
Yep.
and that definitely bothered him. He looks like he's limited in practice. Gonna have to monitor that. But here's the thing: is if he takes another hard shot in there, that could possibly mean fracturing ribs. That could mean broken ribs. Could be ending his season. And the way things are trending for Washington, I think you would want to keep him safe, keep him out of harm's way. So if he needs extra rest, sit him.
Maybe do it this week.
Because Marcus Mariota, we saw when he came in for that team, a lot of people have some bad memories about Marcus Mariota, but in this offense, this Cliff Kingsbury-led offense, he played extremely well too. So maybe you do take a week to rest, an extra week to rest for Jaden Daniels, and you put Marcus Mariota in this matchup, regardless of who's playing quarterback. I have to give the edge to Washington just because of how well they're playing, more offensively than defense.
Yeah.
And that's the thing for me that's going to be critical as we get closer to the postseason. Is will this defense continue to get better every week? That's going to be key for them because in order for them to have a shot at pushing at all through the playoffs, they're going to need that defense to step up. And right now they're average at best, but they definitely have to. And the Giants, again, they're vice versa. Their defense is playing great football. I mean, they're always getting pressure on the quarterback, always stuffing the run, always making the necessary plays, except for Deonte Banks. But the Giants' offense, that's the part that they just can't figure out. Daniel Jones constantly making mistakes. Give me Washington in this just because I think as soon as Washington Commanders start to get a lead, I think the game will be already over.
All right, next we've got the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers. Again, we talked about Andy Dalton and the injuries here with the car accident. Bryce Young, not looking too well. New Orleans Saints potentially could get Derek Carr back. But even despite that, I think overall, just talent-wise, New Orleans is there over Carolina. So I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints on this one.
We got confirmation that Bryce Young is getting another start.
There you go.
So that right there should tell you everything you need to know. Now, the funny thing is that Bryce Young actually had a pretty decent, start his first series or two. He went 8 for 10, over 100 yards, didn't turn the ball over, and then after that, just imploded. Just played terrible. The Saints, if they, in fact, do get Derek Carr, I think it's just easy to say, like, that offense is going to come back. They're good. This is a game that they should easily win, especially with Bryce Young in the fold. Give me the Saints.
All right, Jacksonville Jaguars and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jacksonville, again, on the verge of losing their head coach here on this one. Right. Trevor Lawrence, not so good of a game last week. But it's funny, I was kind of looking at his stats again. If you look at his stats, though, not horrible. But it's almost
not
like,
good.
Well, it's not too bad, though. You know what I mean? But it's funny. It's like almost like when you watch the games, though, is when you realize it more. You know what I mean? You ever kind of see that?
That's
you
why
look
stats
at,
aren't
like
everything.
A guy's stats. Yeah, it's kind of funny. You look at a dude's stats, you're like, he's not doing that bad. But then it's the game is when you're watching it, and it's those critical moments in the game where he makes the mistakes that kills you.
Yeah, Danny Shawman is in the house, everybody. One of our notos said, Giants looked pretty good against the Steelers, but made too many mistakes. They have some weak players between the high talent guys. And you're right. And that's what it is. Like, This is a team that we thought, even coming into this season, like, okay, they're going to be a little bit better in some areas, but they're still going to struggle in others. It was great for them to be able to draft Malik Neighbors, who I think is going to have a very long career and a great career, but they need a quarterback that can get them the ball. They need to further improve that offensive line. They need another wide receiver. They just need too many things. Even running back is in need now after missing out on Barkley. So this is a team that they know it too. They know they still need more talent, and Brian Daboll and Joel Shane are going to keep delivering. So far they've made good decisions since they've been there, for the most part. Like, you can blame them. Oh, why'd they re-sign Daniel Jones? Well, because they had to.
Yeah.
Who are they going to turn to? They had no other option. That's why they had to pay him and keep him. So it sucked, but it is what it is. Now we'll see what they do in this next offseason, what they go for. The most likely quarterback. We'll see how many other holes they're able to fill.
Yep. All right. So Jacksonville, Philadelphia. I don't think this is even going to be even a close game. Philadelphia is playing a lot better right now, especially now they're getting healthy. I'm going to take the Eagles here at home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take the Eagles too. I mean, I don't have any confidence and didn't have confidence in Trevor Lawrence before the season started. I know, Jim, like, you had hopes for him to turn it around, and actually that Jaguars team not too long ago, a couple seasons ago, were winning the division.
Yep.
We're going in the playoffs, and you look at the team, it's like it's the same guys. Same guys are on the roster. So what changed? The way they do practices, the way the coaching, way the plays are being called. I don't know what it is, but it's not working. So they got to figure something else out. The Eagles, they're a team that is not only now healthier, but we're starting to see this offense start to score points and the defense coming into its own. We'll see if it still can continue, but we think the Eagles win this one.
All right, Chicago Bears and the Arizona Cardinals. Chicago, again, barely lost that game. Shocked, here against the Commanders. But as far as Chicago, their defense is really good, but the offense barely, Caleb Williams is getting better. Some of the throws looks good, making some plays with his legs. That offensive line breaks down a lot. And I think maybe even, too, it's not even that fact that they're making mistakes. It's almost Caleb Williams is holding the ball too long, so then he's kind of running around with it until trying to find that open guy, and then that's what I mean. Then the corners are sitting there forever trying to hold, and then a guy gets open, and that's when he does the kind of the dish off after he's scrambling a little bit to kind of get some stuff going.
That's what he's used to, though. Look back at USC. That's just what he normally does, and at the NFL level, you're not used to that. You can only hold a defensive lineman for so long. Eventually, if you're running around in circles, they're going to be able to get there and pursue you. And by the way, Caleb, they're much faster at this level. They can catch you.
Yep.
So it's like, you take the good with the bad with him.
Yep. So I think ultimately, though, this is going to be a closer game than people expect.
Yeah, I agree.
think the way Arizona's been playing, I think this might be one of those games that might sneak up on the Chicago Bears. And I think I'm calling the Arizona Cardinals with the upset win against the Chicago Bears.
I don't know how much of it's an upset win. I mean, the Cardinals team has proven to us up to this point, they are 500 right now. They've shocked the hell out of me a couple times where I'm like, Cardinals are easily going to lose this game. And then the Cardinals end up just win. Look at the Niner game.
Yeah.
They beat the 49ers for crying out loud. Like, that has to tell you everything in itself. And that was a team that wasn't that hurt at that time. So give me the Cardinals in this one. I think they're the better team, especially, in terms of talent-wise. Well, maybe not talent, but I think they've just been playing better football than Chicago. And Kyler Murray, I feel like that's going to be the difference, is that the Bears don't normally have to contend against a quarterback like him. This dude runs extremely fast. It's like 4.3 speed, and you can't see him until he emerges from the O-line, before he's already on top of you, running down the sideline. So defenses have struggled with him, and I feel like this is going to be, and I agree with you, Jim. Like, I think it is going to be a closer game than people anticipate, but give me the Cardinals to edge out Chicago.
All right, next we got the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers here. ultimately, I think if Jordan Love is able to go on this one,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's practiced or not, if he was limited or not. Do you got the injury
He's
report here
banged
on him?
up, man. Like he pulled his groin
Yeah,
last week.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I don't foresee him
Yeah.
playing. Like usually when a player pulls a hamstring, it's not a groin injury, but I'm trying to compare. Like a hamstring takes a couple weeks to heal,
Yep.
so you're going to miss one game at least,
Yep.
depending on the severity of it.
Yep.
With a groin, it's so much more sensitive
It's one
because
of those
now
negative soft
you-
tissue
when you have to
injuries.
push off your leg or strafe or just push forward and run, that's really irritating it. And if he re-injures it, now you're out for a month at least. Like
Yeah.
so, I think the Green Bay Packers got to play it safe. I feel like if at all he's being held back at all, limited in practice all week, I say you shut him down at least for this week and reevaluate next week. But
Right.
I'm gonna look real quick for you.
Sure. Well, either way, we're looking at this game. This
Yeah,
is
he
gonna be a
didn't practice
close,
at all today.
Divisional game. I know these guys.
Yeah.
You know when they usually play again. Green Bay gets the best of the Detroit Lions, but right now the Lions are playing the best football right now.
It's a different time.
Defensive, and again Malik Neighbors in there, or Malik Neighbors, Malik Willis. Sorry. Again, he's making some plays with his legs, but that's all about your getting, So I see a lot of Josh Jacobs getting the ball in this one.
Yeah.
Malik Willis not asked to do a whole lot here. And eventually Detroit is going to take this one in the long run here. I like the Lions to win.
Yeah, we
in
said
Green
it.
Bay.
We said it before. Detroit Lions best team right now in football. No one's playing better football than them right now. Going against Green Bay and yet again, Jordan Love hurt again this season. Might miss this matchup. Who knows the severity of this groin injury? We know he didn't practice today. Obviously, you're going to have to watch to see how he progresses or not. But even if Love was healthy, even fully healthy,
Yeah.
I still
It's
give the
still
edge to
to
Detroit.
Detroit.
They're
Yeah.
playing such good football and dominating. Give me the Lions.
All right, the Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks. Again, Seattle, they're just one of those teams that the last couple of seasons, again, they've been doing enough to kind of make some good pushes here. They have really good talent in the wide receiving room, but I think now it's time that Geno is kind of overstayed his welcome, here for this team. I think they need to get a younger quarterback moving forward, the guy that's going to lead them, further on than where they are right now. And it's a good time with Mike McDonald there as their head coach here, get the defense straightened out here, and next year, hopefully maybe they can grab somebody. They haven't been as dominant at home, lately this
like
season.
they normally are.
Like
yeah,
they normally are. Los Angeles Rams are one of those scary teams again. Got injured, lost their two starting wide receivers early on in the game, and Matthew Stafford, again, still gets it done no matter who he's dishing it to. And Puka Nacua, big game last week. And even Verse, guys on the defensive side, too, making some plays. Seattle, I don't see them taking this one here. I think I like the Rams in this one.
yeah, and that's the thing is like this offense for the Rams has been struggling without Puka, without Cooper Kupp.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care who. Tutu Atwell was a nice name that was emerging because he was his favorite target, honestly, along with some other younger guys like Whittingham and whatnot, or Whittington. But again, you saw how much he missed those guys and how important they are. Even despite the trade rumors about Cooper Kupp possibly being traded, you knew, and we called it out. It was like, hey, if he plays Thursday night, he's not getting traded.
Yep.
They've already made that decision.
Yep.
And rightfully so. You saw how much different that offense works with those two guys in there. Now this offense can get back to business. They've been running the football well, even despite those guys being out, but they needed those playmakers. Now that they're returning, the Rams are going to get back on track. They're going to get back into the playoff race. And with this young defense that's playing really good football, a couple of rookies stepping up, like Jared Verse, like Brendan Fisk, watch out, NFC. This is a team that you're probably not going to want to have to deal with later in the season, but Seattle Seahawks are going to have to deal with them right now. Jim, I kind of agree with you about Geno Smith not playing up to par, making mistakes. You can't do that if you want to be a winning football team. You can't do that if you want to make a push for the playoffs. And DK Metcalf has definitely voiced his displeasure, very upset and thinks they should be better. But that all being said, I think the Rams, again, with these playmakers back, with how this team is going, how they played last week and upsetting the Vikings, Rams are on their way. Like, give me the Rams in this one.
Yep. All right. Now, Sunday Night Football, Minnesota Vikings are back here. Indianapolis Colts now with Joe Flacco at the helm. I think now that changes things with this game, that at least the Colts are going to be competitive in this one. But
Yeah,
Minnesota,
they'll-
again, yes, they're on a losing skid right now, but again, they still have Justin Jefferson, they have Addison, they have talent here. So
They're a really
I
good
think they
football
can
team.
easily, exactly, right the ship. They're at home. Indianapolis just isn't as good as Minnesota right now. I'm going to take the Vikings here at home.
Yeah, if Steichen only listened to this show earlier, we could have put you on the path of righteousness and winning. But you didn't, so you missed out. And now you're
Needed to
finally
place the
catching
bug,
up.
like some teams have already. They've been bugging our studio, some of them, and these guys didn't.
Yeah, and now you finally catch up to, what we were talking about before. Start Joe Flacco if you want to win, if you want to stay in the race, if you want a chance to make the playoffs. And now you're doing it. But who knows? You're 4-4 right now. And this team, even though I think I'm going to pick the Colts eventually, but not in this matchup.
Not in this matchup.
I think the Vikings, after sustaining 2 tight losses, by 2 good teams, Detroit Lions, LA Rams
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Puka and them,
Yeah.
those are tough battles. And I can't wait to see if and when those rematches happen, because it's going to be a great game again. But this is a team that the Vikings should win. Let's just face it.
Yep.
The Colts, I don't think they're going to be able to do too much against the Vikings. I'll say offensively, they might be able to stay in the hunt in terms of like matching point for a little while. But then I think the Vikings pull away in the end. Give me the Vikings.
All right, here we go. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers now and the Kansas City Chiefs, Monday Night Football. And I said this last night on the
Jeez.
Blitz that
Yeah.
I wish, again, that they had their wide receivers in this one for Tampa, because
100%.
I'm all about this game. You know what I mean? And I think
100%.
even Tampa Bay is going to kind of give them a run for their money, just because the way the Kansas City Chiefs have been playing. Not very good offensively. And I think Baker Mayfield has the talent, especially even with his legs. Watch him make some plays with his legs in this game against that Chiefs defense. So I think they're going to keep it competitive early on, but just not having those weapons that he likes, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin there is going to become a factor, I think, for this one. And unfortunately, I think I see the Chiefs going 8-0 at this point.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I really wish they at least had Mike Evans. If
Yeah.
they at least had Mike Evans, I probably would have picked Tampa in this
Yes.
one. But having such, just not having the experience at wide receiver with McMillan being a rookie, you see them not on the same page a lot of times between him and Baker Mayfield. You look at Sterling Shepard, but he left the game with an injury, wasn't able to sustain it. Trey Palmer, another guy who got banged up. So this receiving core in its entirety is really wounded. And that's why when you looked at last week and what they were able to do, Baker Mayfield still had a great game.
Yeah.
They still were competitive.
Yep.
And probably more competitive than I thought they were going to end up being.
Yep.
But it turned to Kate Otten, the tight end, had a huge day. It turned to the running backs in the backfield, and Bucky Irving and Rashad White was in on it. So it seems like they're substituting that loss with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin now being out for the year. Now they're substituting and utilizing the tight end more, the running backs more, especially in the passing game. They might be able to keep it close for a while, but then again, I feel like down the stretch, the Chiefs somehow, some way, are going to just have that field goal or that touchdown that pull ahead at the end, and that's going to be the deciding factor. As much as I don't want to pick the Chiefs, I'm going to have to pick the Chiefs in this one.
Oh, yeah, I know. I get it here. So there you go. There's our picks for this week, Week 9. So look how fast it goes, Joe. Just like that, it's Halloween. Week 9 is here upon us.
That's right.
Halfway through the season.
We're winners here, everybody.
Yes.
We're winners here, and you guys are winners. Thanks for tuning in, know-it-alls. We really appreciate it. Listen, do us a huge favor. If you could do
know-it-alls.
this for us, we will love you forever. Tell your friends, family members that love football talk. This is the best damn interactive NFL talk show out there. We want to prove it to you guys. Make sure you hit the comment section for us. Any given time, we're going to answer your questions. We'll give you a shout out. Even if you have an opinion, we're going to address it here on the show. head over to YouTube for us. Hit that subscribe button for us. Hit the thumbs up while you're there. It does go a very long way, especially allowing YouTube like, hey, look it, these guys are getting some action. Maybe we should help them out. We really do appreciate it. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much. You guys enjoy your Halloween. Make sure you don't eat too much candy or you don't go to any creepy houses that looks like they're giving you some kind of crazy drugs. And we'll see you guys next week
if you're into that kind of
after
thing.
Election Day. Maybe by then, the next day, we'll find out maybe who our next potential president will be. All right, see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.